Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review of the 1990 film Miami Blues. Now, Miami Blues is an interesting, intriguing little film. It's a film that I'm not really a big fan of. It's a movie that to me personally was honestly quite disappointing and left me with a massive set of blue balls because it seemed like it was working me up and building to some kind of explosive climax. But to me personally, it never really got there. But that being said, there are some things about this that I liked. And it is a film that is interesting and it is unique. So it's a film that ultimately I didn't hate, but I also didn't really like. It's in that weird in between phase where there are things about it I like, there's things about it that I don't like, and there's enough things about it that I don't like that ultimately is a film that I wasn't too fond of. And it's frustrating because I see potential with this film, and there's some really great ideas and concepts, but they're not fully realized. And I'll get into why I feel that way soon enough. But this film seems to have a little bit of a cult following. It did well critically when it came out. Like 81% of critics liked it, according to Rotten Tomatoes. And yeah, there are apparently quite a few people who've wrote about this film, talking about how it's some kind of underrated gem. And on one hand, I can get it. On another hand, I don't, because there are a lot of things that don't quite click with this film, and I definitely don't get some of these reviews. Both of these quotes are from the Hollywood Reporter, their review of the film. So it says, a tour de force thriller crackling with intensity. This is not really a thriller, and it definitely isn't crackling with any kind of intensity. The intensity in this is sporadic. It says edgy, dazzling, irreverent, as much excitement as imaginable. As much excitement as imaginable? This has like maybe one or two shootouts, a sequence where some fingers get cut off. There really isn't that much excitement in this. So it is not as much excitement as possible. That is false advertising, and that makes me think that this critic got bought off by the studio or by the director, because if you have seen this film, it does not match that description in any way whatsoever. Irreverent? Yeah. Edgy? Yeah. Dazzling? Not so much, but at times, yes. But this is a film that had a long gestation period. Apparently, it's based on a book, and the director, George Armitage, he was a big fan of the book, and he had been working on trying to get a version of this made for years, and he eventually got the job. It was the first film that he had directed in a long time. And I gotta be honest, Armitage's direction is good. I think it's one of the better things about the film, and it doesn't really appear as if he hadn't directed in a decade. Unlike some other directors who show up and do a film years later and it's incredibly obvious, that really wasn't the case here. And originally, the project was planned to have Gene Hackman as the role of the police chief who's trying to get his badge back and trying to stop the main villain, Frederick, is trying to stop Junior, and Fred Ward was going to play Junior, but Hackman decided not to do it, and there were some things that did not work out. So ultimately, Fred Ward decided to take the role of Hoke, and Alec Baldwin nailed the audition so well that he just blew everybody away. So he got the role of Junior, and you could tell why. Alec Baldwin's performance in this is legitimately dazzling. It's great. It's a great performance by Alec Baldwin. He's off the wall. He's zany. He's wacky, but he also has this intensity and intimidation factor to him that really works. You can buy why people would fall in love with this guy or find something about him that makes them want to be with him, but he also has this believably dangerous side to him. It's controlled chaos, and it's a legitimately great performance. That's why I wish it was a better film. And it's not only Alec Baldwin who's really good here. I mean, Fred Ward is also equally as fantastic as Hoke. he's one of his best performances. He's really good in this. I just wish he had a better film. He was in a better movie overall. Jennifer Jason Leigh, she has this reserved, meek sensibility, this endearing gullibility. That's really the best way to put it. This character is so gullible, but it's endearing. In a lot of ways, her character Susie Wagoner, she's great in this too. Charles Napier has a little bit role as Sergeant Bill Henderson. He's fine, but he isn't really given a whole lot to do. Nora Dunn is in this, who was on SNL, and she made a huge stink about Andrew Dice Clay hosting SNL in 1990, and because of his comedy and so on and so forth. And she thought she was going to be a bigger star and so on and so forth. So she left SNL soon after, and she never really got anywhere big. She had a fairly considerable role here, but she was average at best. There was nothing about this performance that was like, wow, that was great. Especially in a film where it is dominated by two main characters in Fred Ward and Alec Baldwin's characters, Hoke and Junior. They have most of the screen time, and they also have most of the film's best moments. So there really wasn't anything for her to do. So I guess it's kind of unfair to say that she wasn't really, a standout, because she wasn't really given a whole lot to do there. But regardless, didn't work out so well for her when she left SNL. And I don't think her outspoken issues with against Andrew Dice Clay did her any favors either. But that's just my personal opinion on Nora Dunn. And I've never thought she was that great anyway. I've seen her SNL work, and at best she was adequate. I never understood why she thought she was the next big thing. But that's just me personally. So it's got a solid cast. Good direction by George Armitage. In particular, definitely the sequences that are shot in Miami, or the sequences are supposed to have more of a seedy, down-home atmosphere to them. There's kind of a redneck vibe to this, and it doesn't really take place in the South, but it has this kind of redneck, hillbilly kind of vibe and tone to it. It definitely ties into those sensibilities, the simple life, so to speak. The score is by Gary Chang, and it's really not much of anything. The score is okay. I would have liked to have seen Ry Cooder do the music for this. That would have been a nice choice. The editing is by Craig McKay, and I think it's well edited. And I definitely like the cinematography, but I don't know exactly who did the cinematography, but because for some reason IMDb is not listing the cinematographer, so I'm going to look that up real quick. Because I want to give that... Tak Fujimoto. He did the cinematography for this, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the vibrant colors of the Miami landscape that are shown quite prominently in the film. And I do like some aspects of the script. There's some really... It's kind of sold as a black comedy, and there are some legitimately hilarious bits in this. I mean, the whole introduction is so blunt and to the point that you can't help but laugh. Junior is introduced in the film, and he gives absolutely no fucks. He gets greeted by a Hare Krishna at the airport after he's already shot some guy and taken his clothes and is taking his identity. Hare Krishna guy stops him, greets him, and he gives so much no fucks that he just immediately breaks his finger. And this film is so out there and crazy in terms of this particular aspect of the plot that just a single broken finger causes this Hare Krishna to die of shock. So that's funny. I don't know who you are. That's pretty fucking funny. So that really got me. because he doesn't die right away. You find out that he dies when Fred Ward and Charles Napier are checking the crime scene and are like, how did he die? It's like, some guy broke his finger and he died of shock. And even the two police officers are cracking up. And it's a really funny uh, series of events. Then you have some genuinely humorous sequences with Alec Baldwin where he's sitting alone in his hotel room and he's just having a good old time, imitating Scarface and doing all this stuff and just having a blast with his stolen goods. There's also a scene where he goes to a supermarket and the cashier asks for a price check on an Uzi. So there are some really genuinely humorous bits in this. Other moments are when after he's stolen Hoke's police badge and he's going around acting like he's a police officer and playing vigilante. There are some really fun bits like that. Like for instance, he stops this guy from stealing this lady's purse, but then he just runs off with her purse. So it does have some inspired bits of black humor, of black comedy. And that's what makes it so frustrating because I honestly feel there should have been more. I really feel it should have been more like Raising Arizona in terms of its tone, in terms of the comedy, more of the dark humor, less of the drama, because the drama isn't very compelling. A majority of this film is about this relationship between Junior and the character played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, Susie. That's a majority of the film, is about their relationship, about their home life, and so on and so forth. And in small doses, it's fine. But in large doses, it's like that vinegar pie that she serves Junior near the end of the film, where she deliberately puts too much vinegar in there to get back at him for lying to her about him being a criminal and him turning a new leaf. It honestly is a fitting allegory or metaphor. It is, yeah, it's like equivalent of that slice of vinegar pie. It's just too much of the down home cooking and not enough of the black comedy or the stolen police badge aspects. And the whole back and forth and hunt between Hoke and Junior. It's a unique performance for Fred Ward. I mean, he plays a character who's toothless and he's trying to find his dentures because Junior stole them along with his police badge. And there's a lot of potential with this film and with this concept, but it never really, to me personally, lives up to the full potential. It's like someone in a race who gets going but then trips over their feet and stumbles and never really makes it across the finish line. And it's frustrating and it's disappointing because there's a lot of these things about the film that I legitimately really like. In the climax, there's a really intense sequence where Junior tries to rob a pawn shop and then he gets his fingers cut off in a surprisingly gory bit of craziness. And then he shoots the pawn shop clerk with a shotgun, and ultimately he gets gunned down by Hoke by the end of the film. And it's sufficiently bloody, but it's just one of those things where even when you get to the climax, when he gets caught, when he gets shot, it seems rather limp. And it's just one of those films where I honestly feel this could benefit from a remake. And if they were to do another one, if they're to do a new version of this, amp up the aspect of the police vigilante thing, because that's the most interesting part of this plot. Have Junior steal the police badge early on in the film, and have him go around doing his whole cop shtick. Have him initially start out taking advantage of it by tricking people and stealing purses and all of that, but then have him have a crisis of conscience. In particular, after he's met the character Susie and actually fell for her, and isn't just straight up manipulating her for a place to stay and for a good lay. Have him actually start to have feelings for her, and then he's conflicted, and now he's deciding to use the badge to fight legitimate crime, and he's now an actual vigilante. And then you have Fred Ward's character Hoke is now trying to get him, and that just makes the viewer more conflicted, because you're like, well, wait a second, he's in the middle of this crime investigation. He's trying to stop this big time drug dealer. Like, just let him do it. Let him stop this guy from selling drugs on the streets. Why do you need to go after him now? And that would be more interesting than what they went with, which is just a lot of, like I said, down home cooking and down home drama, and it's just boring. It's that the drama is boring. It's not exciting. It's not interesting. It's so simplistic and straightforward that it's the equivalent of being a fly on the wall in a southern home with a couple that are really not that into one another, and one side is clearly using the other, and it's not like they're doing anything that's particularly that exciting. The character that Jennifer Jason Leigh plays, Susie, she's just cooking food for him, and Fred Ward comes over one night and they have a beer and they eat some food and they talk. That's all it is. And I know that that can be endearing, and there'd be some quality to that people can like, and I get it. But there's so much of that in this movie that it just kills the film. It just kills the pacing, and it's just boring. I gotta be honest, it's just boring. But yeah, the film wasn't really a hit by any means. It cost 9.8 million and it made 11 million in the box office, so it really didn't make much of a profit if you count taxes and then these other stuff that got taken out of the film's box office gross. It has a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Has a lot of critics who did ultimately like the film. Apparently Suzanne Vega was up for the role of Susie Wagoner, and Suzanne Vega, she was in a few other things. She did a lot of music work. She was more known for that than being an actress. Fred Ward originally wanted Jonathan Demme to direct the film, but it was Demme that suggested George Armitage to direct the film. Demme apparently produced the film, and it contains a cast and crew of a lot of people who worked with him. And that's really all the trivia that I could find in regards to this movie. I don't really know what else to say about Miami Blues, except, like I said, it's just a film that has potential, has some interesting concepts, and has some genuinely great performances, some good direction, but overall the plot just isn't engaging or interesting enough as a whole to really make it all satisfying. It's just a film that drags its feet and gives you blue balls, and when it's over, you're just left with that feeling of disappointment and just wanting more. So yeah, I don't know what else to say except thank you for watching my review of Miami Blues, and as always, I will see you later. See ya.